There is a beautiful intersection of streets in Nottingham. It always seems to be evolving, with people stopping to relax, the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and often people finding a quiet moment to themselves. And I've done street photography in this location for that exact reason many times over. But what if it was the only location I took photographs? See, at times I can use location as an excuse to not go out and shoot, thinking to myself that the space isn't very interesting, or that I don't live in a big enough city, or maybe just that the route I've walked a million times over has become boring. So I thought to myself, what if I reduced my location down to somewhere really small, and instead of focusing on where I was going to shoot, just look at what was happening within that one small space, taking location out of the equation. So for the next month, what if I only took photographs in this spot? Would it change the way I see the space? Would I begin to see things differently? Or would I just come to hate one of my favourite locations in Nottingham? So before I started, I figured I needed to come up with some rules. The first is to only shoot here. To keep focus, I'll not do street photography at all unless it's within this space. Second, to keep motivation and for it to not feel like Groundhog Day, I can use any of my equipment, any of the glass or cameras that I own. And third and finally, a defined boundary. So what's nice about this space is there are 2 flags painted on the floor in 2 directions. And in the other 2 directions, I've just set up an invisible line that I will not cross. So with these simple rules in place, I headed out to my new home for the next month. When I first started this process, I had the feeling like I was a caged tiger, just pacing round the invisible boundary I'd set in my mind, waiting for something interesting to happen, or a spark to get me going. And the first few days were really slow, and I'd started to think, have I made a mistake with this project? And one night after doing street photography in the space, I came home and was doing some reading, trying to find some inspiration. And I discovered this quote from Lee Freelander: "You don't have to go looking for pictures. The material is generous. You go out and the pictures are staring at you." And honestly, this was the inspiration I needed. Looking through the viewfinder with this perspective, waiting for the pictures to stare back at me. It felt like there was infinite potential within the space itself, let alone the people passing through. Welcome to Life, Work and Dreams. This is seeing things differently. Once I got into my stride with this project, I started to see so many beautiful details and nuances that the space had to offer, and I wanted to find ways to bring this feeling to the images of people moving through the environment. Human connection and interaction is one of my favourite things to capture out on the street. The simple beauty of small gestures and that feeling that we all understand. The more time I spent out on these streets, the more I wanted to connect the people and the environment, exploring reflections, connecting people and place with this dreamlike quality. This project has been an incredible journey in studying as much detail from a single space as I could, and yet I still feel like there are so many things to discover and moments to capture. But my favourite time I spent here was early in the morning, when it was just me alone before the city had woken up. Discovering how the light brought the space to life each morning, it brought me a whole new level of connection and love for these streets. And interestingly, my two favourite images I made were captured first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening. The first was around 5:30 in the morning, and I was setting up to make a photograph of the empty street as this figure walked into frame. I love the overall presence this image has, and to me this feeling of solitude shines through. And the second captured late at night as this cafe was finishing up for the day. There is such a beautiful warmth in the way that the colours shine through, and a real inviting feel to this image. As always, thank you so much for watching and becoming part of the Life, Work and Dreams community.